Mark, thank you so much for being here at our first ever virtual employer showcase. You are our #1 fan, and we're your #1 fan. So I welcome you to Zoom, our first showcase. And you know, I think you know everybody here, and I just introduced you to Valerie. If you could start off by telling us your career journey and how you go from where you know, what your major was in college until creating your own company.
Yeah. Well, I want to, before I start, I learned something today on Zoom. It's how to give a thumbs up sign.
Oh, I love it.
Well, I got to use it. Yeah, thank you so much. You guys have been a great partner. So obviously, Mark Flynn. I went to college in Springfield. So I went to Springfield College. Played football. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Kind of was that guy that said I wanted to make money. Kind of everyone does, but that was my focus. I wish I could be. I'm going to be very transparent and honest as I always am. And I didn't particularly love school. I loved playing football. I loved the social aspect, but you know, finance and economics just wasn't the thing. So going back to school to either become a lawyer or something like that just didn't interest me. So that's how I got into sales. So I got into sales with an opportunity to you know, be successful. And first job I had was working for a big company selling electronic components up in the North Shore, and I was in a room with 120 people, and I did really well. But I noticed that, you know, I was probably in the top 5%, and some of the people are lower. The commission scale wasn't really that well there. So you made a small commission. So the people that did really well didn't make much more than the people that were at kind of the lower end. And I was like, we were selling electronic components, you know, 1 million pieces of this, 700 pieces of that, to people that made like all electric computers, speakers, just whatever electronically. And I said, this isn't why I got into this, although I enjoy it, but I got into it to make money. So I started looking at careers where compensation was in my own hands. And a friend of mine was in staffing. He's a recruiter. He's worked for a staffing agency out of Waltham. And he said, Mark, you got to look at this industry. You know, compensation's in your own hands. You can go out and get the jobs, and you can fill the positions. And then he goes, and the second part of this is, it's also good. You get to help people. And I said, cool, cool. So I looked at a bunch of companies, and I got in the industry, so to speak. So I was placing IT people for a while, and IT had a few really ebbs and flows. I mean, I went through the .com crash, and I'm dating myself, telecom crash, and I was like, man, I really like this thing, but you know, going through these crashes is tough. So I tried to find an industry that was a little less volatile and a little bit more recession proof, if that's a term. And that's how I got into life sciences 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, I did some research, and I said, hey, you know, drug development's a way to go. I'll never forget this, and I'll tell a story real brief. A woman I was talking to talked about drug development, and she said, hey, Mark, quick question. How much money would you pay for your mom or your grandmom, your dad to get well? I said, every penny I have. And she said, that's every human being on the face of this earth is going to answer the question that way. So that's how I got into drug development. So went to work for a company, learned clinical trials, learned pharmaceutical, learned all that, and went to work for them for a while. I got hired away from there to go run a group. An IT staffing company had a group that they wanted to get into clinical trials, so I went there and started the clinical trial group there. And I don't know, to be, again, brutally honest, the owner was a pretty greedy fella. So I was like, this isn't cool. This is what I got into this for. And, you know, I was really, the drugs we were working on were really changing people's lives, and it was great. You know, I worked on with Boston Scientific, the stint. I mean, if anyone around here has a stint, you know, I placed half the people that developed that. So it was cool. But I was like, this guy's being too greedy. So I went and started my own company in 2009. I started Flynn Life Sciences Group. Myself out of my house, newly married, getting pregnant. I don't necessarily know if I recommend that for everybody, but and then I just slowly grew it myself, bootstrapped it. No funding, just myself in the room for about 15 hours a day for about 6 months. Then I slowly moved out to a shared space, which is like an HQ. Went to one of those. Then I got 2 offices at the HQ, with 4 of us kind of jammed in there and developing new clients. Moved down the street to a real small office. And then I moved around the corner where I'm at now with 5,000 square feet. And it's been, 11 years, and it's been great. We work with the company Vertex, and I really, really enjoyed this. We placed 60 people that were working on a cystic fibrosis drug to help children, right? So help children with CF, and it's a rewarding position. What I really enjoy doing is training and mentoring people that come into my organization. That's mainly what my job is. I promoted a gentleman who's been with me for 6 years. He's the managing director of Flynn Life Sciences. So he kind of handles the day-to-day operational stuff. And I literally just sit on the floor. I don't have an office, and I roam to train and mentor everybody. I've told everybody my goal for 2020 is to make everybody successful, and that's it. So that's kind of where we're at now. Crazy times, but as we were talking before we kind of went live here, is we're in an industry that's very at the forefront of what's going on now. We're working with the client that's working on developing a vaccine. We're also working with 2 other companies that are running clinical trials with drugs that are already on the market for other indications, and trying to see if they'll work for this. And they seem to be positive. So things are okay. Are we going to get hit a little bit? Absolutely. I don't think there's an industry, except Zoom maybe, could be the only company in the universe that does really, really well here. And then, by the way, they've done a great job. I thought for sure they were going to crash, but they haven't. So it's been great. So we're going to feel it a little bit, but I was saying, we hired somebody and we stuck to it. They started literally the day we started working from home. So we've been training him. I've been training him every day on Zoom, and we're going to hire somebody else. We have a plan, and we're going to try to stick to it. So in that sense, it's okay. I know it's tough for everybody else. We're running, Zoom interviews, Skype interviews. We have one person who got an offer. They were a little hesitant to take an offer because they weren't able to kind of get in and meet the people, which I understand, right? Careers are big part of your life, and then when things change, they are going to have to go in the office 3 days a week. So some of those hiccups come, and I guess they're logistical, but I don't know, that's kind of where we're at. I feel grateful that our business still has some stuff going on, and grateful that we might be able to help get out of this kind of situation too. I feel lucky that I'm part of that vertical, and one of the things I'll say is I like that we're a very positive company at Flynn Life Sciences, and I know we're going to be okay. I know we're going to come out of this. I know everyone's going to make it. We're going to go through some struggles, yeah, but that's kind of makes your struggles make you stronger. So, but a lot of companies are hiring. They are. I looked at a few companies yesterday, about 10 companies, and they all had multiple positions. And I talked to them. I said, "Are you still hiring for those, or those old numbers?" They said, "No, we're hiring." So that's good.
I've noticed that on Handshake, and I've noticed
we
that
all agree that I think some industries are going to get hit harder than others, unfortunately. So.
What industries do you think will be the ones, besides, the health and sciences and that kind of thing, but besides that, what do you think are going to be some of the industries that really will be able to weather this storm?
Well, I think technology is one, and that's a wide range, right? So there's technologies in banking, there's technology in mostly every company, right? So I think security technology is going to do really well, right? So there's going to be one of the sectors I think is going to get hit very hard is going to be like office space, business office space, right? I think people are realizing now work from home, and I don't know that that's going to change that much. I'll give you, for instance, a friend of mine is a pretty high level person at care.com out of Waltham. They have a huge building right there on that Totten Pond Road area. And they got bought recently, and the new CEO says, we're going to have to lay off 20% of the people, and we're selling half the building, selling it. So I think the office space, but again, technology and security for all these remote people is going to be huge. Although it was always pretty big, but I think right now it's really going to take off. You know, there's always predators out there, and they're going to try to take advantage of this. It's happened with Zoom. I think they've done a better job recently, but yeah, I think that's going to be a good. I think banking is gonna be okay. I think it's a security part of banking. If I had to say that, you know, people are really nervous about their money. Let's call it like it is. So I think they're going to be okay. And you know, I think construction's going to take a hit. I think that's going to slow down a lot. Which, between you and me, I couldn't imagine it keep going. I mean, everywhere I drive, there's new building. I mean, you drive in Boston, there's cranes everywhere. Right? I didn't know how long that was going to go, but yeah. So security and technology, I think, is definitely going to be something that's going to go, you know, sky high, and they're going to be looking for some, especially, you know, let's call it like it is, some of those new cutting edge, the younger kind of new millennials that come in that know those new cutting edge technologies that are going to be, you know, going to help these companies, you know, take it to the next level and be able to do all that remote stuff they want to.
Wonderful. Val, do you have a question for Mark?
Yeah. Do you have any advice to give the class of 2020? We're sort of graduating into this unknown, unprecedented time. And what advice would you give to those graduating into a situation like this about pursuing job opportunities?
Well, great question. And I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm very transparent. I do feel bad for some of the folks. It's not going to be as robust as it was a lot, but I will also say the last 5 years have been absolutely insane. So you know, the reality of it is it couldn't stay that way forever. But what I would say is, you know, one of the things that our motto at Flynn Life Sciences is consistent persistence, right? What does that mean? You can be consistent, but if you're not persistent, it doesn't work. But you can be persistent, and if you don't do it consistently, it doesn't work. So consistently persistent, that's our motto. And what does that mean? Following up with people, right? So if you're going after a job, whatever industry you're in, and there's more people going after those jobs, you have to make yourself stand out. How do you do that? Being consistent and being persistent. They're gonna want, you know, any employer will tell you, I want somebody that wants this job. And they get their actions, not just by their, you know, their cover letter and their resume. What is this person doing? I tell everybody, when you apply for a job, follow up in a few days, reach out to what's now called talent acquisition. It used to be HR. Talent acquisition now is the recruiting arm of HR. And follow up and just say, hey, my name's Mark Flynn. I applied for a job on Monday. This is the job title. This is the number. I just wanted to make sure you received my resume. And I also wanted to express how interested in it I am in the opportunity. Now that's going to right along, that's going to put you above 90% of the people that apply for that job. And they're going to be like, wow, this person wants the job, right? Their actions dictate that. And you know, after that, maybe a week later, it's an email. Hey, is that position still open? I'm still extremely interested. You know, and if you have any other positions that are similar, I'd be interested in hearing about them. I will say this to everybody. Everyone thinks the job boards on most companies' websites are not that up to date. That's the reality, including mine. I'll be the one to kind of tell them myself. And that works both ways: positions that aren't listed, and then positions that are. And also, a second thing, and a really, really, really important thing I would like to add, is ask for contract positions. What contracts are is hourly positions. So they don't list those. I would say 70% of the time, a lot of companies don't list their contract jobs. Contract jobs are a really good way to get in the company, do well, and I'll tell you right now, if you're a good employee, they'll find a position for you. And most contract jobs are 40 hours a week. They just don't list them. So the kind of behind the scenes situation with that is most companies have two budgets. One's for permanent headcount and one's for contract headcount. So if they run out of money for perm, they can only hire contract. And again, remember, they don't list a lot of contracts on the website. So I'm kind of giving you a little trick because that's how we get our jobs. But that's something to go for. So being consistent, being persistent, following up, doing that type of stuff, and then, you know, asking them from other positions and then look at those contracts. Hopefully that was a little inside track info to help you out. But don't be afraid to, yeah, and listen, if you don't ask, you're not going to get it, right? I tell everybody that. Now, you don't obviously want to be a pain in the butt with it, but it's okay, right? So he would be kind of for me, I would feel comfortable with this kind of schedule. Say you submit on Monday, follow up with a call on Wednesday, follow up with an email on the following Wednesday, and then maybe one more email or a call the week after that. That's acceptable. And I'll tell you right now, if someone did that for me, I'd be like, I want to meet with this person. This is 3 weeks in and they're still pushing after this job. This is the type of person that I want to work for me. We're in sales, so that's a whole nother story. But anybody wants people. So everybody wants somebody that wants to be there. If that makes sense.
Mark,
no one's going to follow up 3 times if they didn't really want the job.
how do you feel, you know, I know our generation, we definitely want to get a thank you email right away within, you know, within like, I'd say 6 hours of the interview. I like to get an email saying thank you. But also, how do you feel about a personalized card that someone writes to you and after the email, they do the email right away? How do you feel about an actual card?
I think I got one in the last 5 years, and I got it, and I got to be honest, I was astonished. I was like, "What the heck is this?" And I was like, "Who's writing me a card?" It's not. I get cards at holiday time, you know, from my clients. And it was nice. It was a handwritten note, and it went over well with me, to be honest with you. You know, I think it's a great thing. I think it's an awesome thing. Now, I will tell you, I didn't go to the mailbox for, it was like 3 days after it got delivered. I pay all my bills online, so that's one of the things you have to look at. And one of the other things I would say is, this is the second part of this. It absolutely, unequivocally can do only positive things for you. There's nothing negative out of it, right? So that's the way I look at it. And if it can help you, go for it. Go for it. And it will separate yourself. I know there was a thing where people would put pictures on their resume for a while to separate yourself. That's what it does. It separates you. And if it's between you and one other person and you write a thank you card, guess who I'm going with? I'm going with the person with the card, because that person took that extra effort, and that means they're going to do that when they employed for the organization. It's real simple. I tell all the people that work with me, you know, read somebody's resume, but then watch what they do, not just what they say. What do they physically do? Like I say, I'm kind of a keep it simple employer, so to speak. And I say, you know, actions speak louder than words, and that works internally, right? For me, if I'm talking and I'm not really trying to help, like that's one of the things you won't see from me. I tell people to work hard. Guess what? I'm the first one in the office every single day. It's just a way to do it. So cards are great. You know, emails right out, I would say within 6 hours is a great. And if you met 5 people, it's not a mass email to all 5. It's an individual email to all 5. Now, we can say the same thing. To be honest with you, I would tweak probably a sentence, but 5 individual to those people, thanking them for their time. And I'd also say one sentence there. I tell people to kind of sell yourself. Well, it was great. You know, when I found out that we'd be doing this, it reminded me of, you know, an internship I did where I did this. It just can help you, you know. But again, as the card, I said, if it can't hurt you in any stretch, you know, of the imagination. So absolutely. And like I said, I've only gotten one. So when that person stood out, I said, let's bring her in.
Wendy's daughter's going into life sciences, and she might have a question for you.
Selfishly, Mark, my daughter just got an internship at AstraZeneca in Washington.
Nice.
Do you think she's going to go? Is it going to be held?
Yeah. So they can't. So you know, this is what is she going to be doing for them? Do you know?
In the oncology research, I have no idea.
So it's research, though. It's not like finance or sales.
It's research.
Right. So sales might be a little slow. Finance, that might be slow. Research and development, which we call R&D, isn't going anywhere, right? So I talked to a gentleman on Friday, and he's in a mid-sized biotech company here in Lexington, and they just got purchased by J&J. And he goes, I go, how's it going, John? He's like, it's great, working from home, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I go, what's going on? He goes, well, let me just tell you this. I have a call with my counterpart at J&J. This gentleman runs clinical operations. And he's been pretty adamant that he wants to know what's going on with our clinical trials. They're $375 million into this. We can't just stick our head in the sand and toss away the data. Same thing with R&D, right? They're into what they're into. I know a lot of people actually, lab workers, so a lot of research labs, they're considered essential. There's a lot of things in there that they work on petri dishes and stuff like that come into time. So they're essential, they're working. I know what they've done. A lot of places are split shifts and things of that nature. So R&D.
It made me feel better. Thank you.
No, R&D is not going anywhere. And again, they're at the forefront of this situation. And now everyone's going to be, let's call it like it is, everyone's going to be on pins and needles. When is this going to happen again? And I think people are going to be working on antibodies for a lot of different viruses. So we're a little bit better prepared for situations like this. I think we kind of, I don't know if we got lucky or whatever. We had, if people remember the swine flu and the bird flu, it just didn't really connect over here as much, but this sure did, right? So I think it opened a lot of people's eyes, and as we see right now, I think last I checked, there was 32 companies working with something for Corona right now, whether it's brand new clinical trials for vaccines or using some drugs that they've already made for other, things like there's a malaria drug that they're saying is really, really positive. They're saying, I think it's Ramisphere. I don't want to mispronounce the name, but they're saying great things about that. The chloroquine, they're trying that with zinc and some other things. And, so there's a lot going on. And I think what's going to happen after we figure this out is the companies are going to try to get ahead of this, wrap their arms around how they can do some antibody testings and things of that nature. We talked to the new term is the new normal. I think some things are going to be changing like this, because I think financially and economically, it's pretty devastating what's going to happen from this. Last I heard, and I don't mean to be negative, but unemployment could go up to 20, 29, almost 30%. And it's not good. And we're going to come out of it and we'll do okay. It's just going to take us a little while. So I think companies are going to try to wrap their arms around how to get in front of this, so it doesn't get to this situation. That's my opinion. Yeah.
Can I ask another question? Is that okay?
You can ask as many as you like.
In this new day and age, we all know that we want potential employees to have certain hard skills, and there were certain soft skills we always talked about. What do you think you or employers are going to be looking for aside from remote capabilities? But is there anything else that you say, stress some other skills? Because maybe students will have to think out of the box where they're going to try to get a job. And so they might not have the exact skills for that job, but maybe they have something else to offer.
There's two that come to mind, and one of them is very hard to test for. So the first one that comes to mind is flexibility, right? What does flexibility mean? Some people have a tough time with change. That would be being able to be flexible with that, right? And kind of working around situations, because it's always evolving, right? I'm not just talking about health. I'm talking about companies being bought, offices being moved. There's a lot of different things. So you have to be flexible. The second one is companies look for people that are resilient, or mental toughness is a kind of another word we used to use in sports, but resiliency. It's tough to test for that one, right? It's really tough to test for that one. But those are the two. So what I would say to you on that is, in your interview process, if you feel you are resilient and you have some solid mental toughness, bring that out in some answers. I'll tell you, I do look for that, especially in sales. I look for people that can deal with some things that might not go their way, so to speak, right? And one of the questions, John, who I mentioned earlier, is my managing director. He asked everybody. He does this kind of interview, and then he goes right to him. He goes, "Question: what would you do if you had a deal for $10,000 commission? You lost it. The person didn't show up for a job. What would you do?" And he tries to kind of see how they would handle that. And you know, it doesn't happen often, but it does. And you know, the reality of it is you got to be able to bounce back and be resilient to that. So, and every employee wants that, right? Every employer wants that because they know that there's going to be ebbs and flows in every job, no matter what you're doing, right? So if you can handle through those things. So resiliency is one, and flexibility. Those are the two. Okay. Those are kind of soft skills, I would say, right? So your hard skills, your hard skills. Like if you want to be a Java programmer, you got to have the Java skills. But those are the soft skills, and those are what differentiate a lot of people, right? What person. Now, one thing I will say is so personality match is in culture is a huge thing, right? They call it personality, now they're calling it culture. That's where we struggle right now with the Zoom stuff, right? It's hard to get a really solid feel for personality and culture, more so for the candidate with the company, right? What's that corporate culture like when we walk in there? It's real easy to see what's going on in an organization if you kind of pay attention to it, right? You see what's going on, you can kind of tell by the looks on people's faces, and you know, that's a tough thing. So that's kind of a little heads up for people. You know, and when one of the ways I'll kind of give you a little hint I would use if I was on a Zoom is, you know, when you're dealing with, a lot of times the companies will put you on with not just the management, they'll put you on with like kind of co-workers or peers at your level. Say, what's the culture there? You know, ask someone that would be kind of a peer to you. And how do they describe the culture before you started? Was it what they said it was, right? And those are questions that I would recommend for candidates to ask.
And
long-winded answer. I hope I answered it though.
Mark, the one thing that you bring joy to my life every day is when I look at all your positivity that you have every day on your social media, especially on your LinkedIn. And we tell students positivity is one of the most important things to have when you're, you know, in your life, but also in the job hunt, to show that positivity.
No one wants that negative stuff, right? Let's call it like it is. We all have stuff, right? We all do, and we understand that, right? As an employer, I get it. I do, and I'm empathetic and I'm compassionate to it, but it's not the place. The first thing, right? When we prep candidates to go on an interview, the first thing we tell them, we tell them not to be late. Second thing I should say is do not talk negative about your former employer at all. Do not. It could have been the worst situation in the world, and this is how we say it. You know, I gave it a shot there, and after a while, I just came to the conclusion it wasn't the right opportunity for me. That's a nice way to say the place stunk, right? Without saying the manager stunk, the people stunk, the place stunk, I couldn't park, the calf stink, you know. And I've had those before. I'm like, bro, that's not conducive. And, you know, to kind of jump on that, we've had situations in my company where I wasn't happy with the culture and the situation. So we changed. 4 years ago, we have now what we call our success meeting. We start every morning at 8:15 with a 15-minute meeting, and we go around the room and everyone talks about one thing that was successful the day before, right? So we're starting the meeting off the day off with a successful conversation, and it's a good training point for other people. So everyone hears what worked for the person yesterday. Now it could be, we've had people say I had a great chicken parm sub at the Waverly place. And that's okay too. They know where to get a good chicken parm sub, right? So, and that means, you know, we had a rough day, but mental toughness, resiliency, he made something good out of it. He had a good chicken parm sub. I've had people say, dude, the sleep I had last night was unbelievable. And I'm like, let's go, you know? So that's been helpful for our organization. We've been doing it for 4 years and it's been outstanding. I will not hire people that are negative. We have a rule. We have very few rules for life sciences, to be honest with you. One of them is zero negativity allowed. Now, do we have to talk about some things that aren't pleasant sometimes? Absolutely, especially at my level. but we handle them. And what I always tell people is we're going to go through situations. Everything's a situation. Nothing's a problem. Everything's a situation. And we're going to figure it out, and we're going to move on from it. And we're going to see what we did wrong, and we're going to move on from it. We're not going to dwell on it. You know, that doesn't do any good. We can't change the past. We can only look forward to the future, right? So we try to grow off those things and not let them. But negativity is a definite no. And I got to tell you, if the reasons people don't get a job, negativity is up there in the top 10. Hands down, too negative for us. Talk bad about his employer, talk bad about the commute, talk bad about this, maybe even top five. Probably skill sets one, right? Personality match, corporate culture just didn't fit. That's right up there. Too negative for us, Mark. We you know, talked too bad about people, and you know, basically was blaming everybody else, right? And so yeah, huge, great point. Thanks so much, Tom, for bringing that up. Invaluable.
Everybody should be following Mark, because he has something positive to put every day, more than one time a day.
Yeah, I
and
do.
Whenever I feel like, oh, you know, I'm not negative a lot, but when I do feel it,
Yeah.
but it brings me joy to see your posts. And
you know, we all go through it, and you know, it's a business platform, and if I can, so my whole thing, like I said, now is to help my employees, but it's also to bring value to the market. I'm not a frontline person, although I do manage a couple clients. I'm not kind of banging the phones like I did for 20 years. So my role has changed. And I feel that bringing that to the marketplace is good, right? We hear so much negative stuff, especially now. I kind of turned off the news, and I turned off all that, and I just look at certain things to get my information now. But it's just this. It's all around us, right? And I'll be the first to admit, I can get caught up in a negative situation pretty easily. I'll be in a good mood, I'll be like, woo woo, and I'll see this, and I'll be like, you know. So, and I don't want to push that on anybody. There's a lot of positive things going on out there, even right now to this day. So, and it's a good way to be, and you know, I like that for my employees to see that too. So I want them to understand that that's the way. That's a good way to life. I try to teach my kids that, but homeschooling has been it doesn't always bring out the most. I'm like, who does this math this way?
Well, I just want to tell you that being our first person to do a virtual employer showcase, we could not have got a better, more positive and a knowledgeable person to do this. So I'm so glad we taped this, because if you don't mind, I'd love to put it, you know, out there once we, you know, we get it all perfect to put out. Would you mind if I do that?
No, don't, and I'll do it again too. If you want to get, if people, you kind of get to a point where more people are on, ask questions, I'll set aside whatever time you need. I think someone wanted to ask a question though.
I think Kiara and Val both have questions.
Oh, good. Yeah. All right. Well, go right ahead.
Yeah. So it's Kiara and Val.
I see their raised hands.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Kiara.
Hi. I'm so sorry that I am joining in pretty late, and I don't know if Mark. It's so good to see you. First of all, thank you so much for
How are
presenting.
you?
Yeah, it's so good. I was just wondering how like the transition to COVID-19 has affected your business, and whether you would recommend like people going into the entrepreneurial field after graduation during this time, like what you see in the future, whether they're
great question. It's going to affect everybody. There's no doubt about it. It's just the various levels, and you know, we talked about positivity a lot. It's going to be. I'm a realist. It's going to be a negative situation. Like I said, I think for everybody but Zoom, but various lands. And I would say, but life sciences is still very, very busy. I don't know if you're on. I said I talked to 10 companies that had positions, and they said they're all hiring. So that's a very good sign. You know, I'm on some boards like Glassdoor and Indeed, and I get blasted every day with new positions. So that tells me that's a good thing in life sciences. Are we going to have a slowdown? Absolutely, and we're starting to feel it now. So we were real busy, and we made a bunch of placements, but those people were in the pipeline right before we kind of got through with this. So it's going to slow down a little bit, but we believe we're going to go, it's going to be a slow back trajectory, probably starting in July. We think once they can start running the clinical trials and get people back into the clinics, which are hospitals most of the time, being safe, then they can get back to the clinical trials, and that's what we do. As for entrepreneur, my thing would be say there's never a bad time, but it just depends on what you're going to do, right? And I don't like, for instance, we talked about, I don't know if you're on, selling, renting office space. I don't recommend that field right now. I think a field of technology and things of that nature is definitely going to be good. We talked about security, definitely going to be good. And I'm sure there's other things that this health scare could be, like, for instance, masks, right? I know a lot of people are making masks right now. So there is opportunities out there, and anything to do with remote work, right? Anything to do with, they assist people and clients and companies work remote to get your work done and interact. So, because that's gonna happen. I mean, there's a lot of talk that 50% of the people won't go back into the office on a daily basis. We're 100% in the office company, and we've overnight turned to 100% remote company. Like, literally one night, we were home on Thursday, and I called everybody, said, hey, we're gonna be home tomorrow, and we haven't been back since. And again, we're making it work. So those things, but yeah, I mean, go for it. I think we've talked about this. You know me, man. I'm a go for it, right? Do your homework, do your research, and go for it. Go for it. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get another job and be an entrepreneur. You can, some people call them side gigs or whatever it is. You can do both until you get to a point where you feel comfortable. Let's talk about, be real about it. The financial aspect of it has to be where you can handle the situations you do. But yeah, man, entrepreneur is great. I love it. I got a couple companies going right now. So, and I'd recommend it for everybody. Well, I shouldn't say I recommend it. It might not be for everybody though. But I wouldn't say not go into it right now for any, just not go into it, but go into the right field in the right situation. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
You have my email too. If you ever need anything, just reach out to me. Do you still have it?
Yeah, thank you. I do. Yep.
Anything, and you know that. Anything you need, just reach out.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. My pleasure.
So I have a question.
Yep.
Where do you see, if anywhere, a fit for folks who don't have a background in sciences at all, perhaps in life science positions? Is there anything you're seeing for like I'm a communications major, political science majors, English majors. Do you see them fitting in at this time?
Yeah, my sister is a communication major at Plymouth State College, and she's like, this is kind of a tough situation, but she got a job at Biogen, which is, hate to say this, the kind of the epicenter of this situation right now. Now 120 people started it here in Boston, but so she got in, and she's in communications, and she's great. She's doing, she's working from home. She works on communications grants. And Biogen was a mid-sized company. It's not even a huge company. I mean, Vertex hires hundreds of media, communications, marketing, these companies we're talking about, and Vertex isn't a huge pharmaceutical company, but man, they have two of the nicest buildings I've seen in the waterfront, and they're absolutely killing it. The stock is still going up. There's definitely room, and they're hiring. Let's call it like it is. Those companies have pretty good cash flow. Hospitals will need marketing people, right, wrong, or indifferent for various reasons. Hospitals, clinics, all those type of companies are definitely going to be, healthcare industry's got to be busy. Let's call it like it is. And they pay well too. Let's call it that. I'll be honest with that. They typically pay well, especially the pharma companies. They typically pay pretty well. Now they'll work you. Sometimes you're there till 10 o'clock at night, but they compensate you. You know, I know a lot of people that become very, very wealthy working at these companies. There's stock options, there's other, you know, their benefits packages are second to none. They believe in work-life balance with the vacation, right? So they might work 50 hours a week, but they want you to take your vacation and stuff like that. So, but yeah, yes, there's definitely room to get in. You don't have to be in research. I'll tell you, a lot of people in clinical trials didn't go to research. So there's a thing called clinical data manager, and they deal with the data from clinical trials. None of them were in you know, biology, chemistry, research. None of them. They kind of slid in. There's another group called regulatory affairs, and those are probably the highest paid people at the pharmaceutical company. And those are people that deal with when they submit a new drug to the FDA to get approval. They get paid very well. The person who runs the regulatory at a pharmaceutical company gets paid more than the scientists that develop the drug. Some people kind of shaking their head, how's that work? Well, I'll tell you, it's closer to the money when they can put the drug on the market and they can charge for it. So that's the reality of it. But I would have to say, if I had to guess the amount of like R&D, so chemists, biologists, you know, those type of, I would say it was under 50% that work at pharma companies. There's finance, sales, none of the salespeople have those backgrounds. None of them. So hope that answered the question. And there's a lot of opportunity. They're looking for, what they look for is kind of go-getters, sharp go-getters. You know, if I could give you like the kind of pedigree, sharp go-getters that want to help people. That's typically their sweet spot.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to be cognizant of your time, Mark. I'm sure you're going to have to go cook dinner or something.
Well, my son's going to get me in the garage and I'm going to feed him pucks. That's what's going to go on tonight. So
I'll tell you, that was the fastest 45 minutes ever. You're just amazing and such a wonderful mentor and a champion of our students. One last question. Any internships on the horizon for fall?
with me or with
With
all
you.
my clients? I'll definitely have a few of them.
Okay.
Yeah.